I'm former director of Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, and I'm very happy to be here with you this morning.
Thank you. Online, let's do Bill Clegg.
Good morning, I'm Bill Clegg. I am the county attorney in Manatee County, Florida, where it's very cloudy.
It's very cloudy here too, Bill, and it's rainy and getting colder. Dr. Francis?
Sorry, I was muted. My name is Michael Francis. I'm the Huff Family Chair of Florida Studies and Professor of History at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg campus, and I'm the Executive Director of the Digital History Project La Florida, the Interactive Digital Archive of the Americas, and I serve on the National Register Review Board. It is somewhat cloudy here in St. Petersburg. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, good. Thank you, Michael. Cliff?
Yeah, this is Dr. Cliff Smith. I'm senior planner with the city of Sarasota. I'm a member of the National Review Board and the Florida Historic Commission, and I'm coming to you from sunny Florida, Sarasota.
So it's sunny somewhere. Good, good. Any other commissioners online? All right, thank you. So let's start with the introduction of staff, and we'll start with the boss here, the director, Alyssa Lotane.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Lotane. I'm the director of the Division of Historical Resources and the State Historic Preservation Officer. Hi, I'm Angie Tomlinson. I'm the... Oh,
Before
John?
you get past me, I was online, but I'm inadvertently muted. This is John Phelps.
Good, John. I'm glad you're online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Angela Tomlinson. I'm the assistant director of the division, and I support the division operations working with budget and grants.
Hi, I'm Ruben Acosta. I'm the bureau chief for historic preservation. This is my first meeting, so hello.
Well, welcome, Ruben.
And the new deputy state historic preservation
Yes, I
officer.
keep forgetting
Duly
that.
appointed.
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Meemer. I'm the bureau chief of the Bureau of Archaeological Research and the state archaeologist for Florida.
I'm Sarah Lico, and since our last meeting, I've actually changed positions. I'm our operations manager now, so I handle purchasing, and I'm under Angie now with budget stuff. And I still manage our grants from the National Park Service, and I probably will not be your liaison for too much longer, so sorry.
I'm John Grandage. I do the construction management projects on the historic sites for the division, and I'm also the division's outreach and communications person.
I'm Jeremy Hiker. I do historic markers and try to keep these webinars going.
Eric?
I'm Eric King. I'm the grant supervisor at the CHR.
Thank you.
Tony Cortez just got back in,
Okay, so Tony is in and good.
hopefully.
Tony, welcome to the commission meeting, and you want to introduce yourself to the folks here in the room and online?
Oh dear. I think everyone knows me well enough, so honored to be here. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm over in Panama City today, so I'll be with us for at least an hour.
Okay, thank you, Tony. All right, so let's go with our guests, if you don't mind, starting with Melissa, and a short introduction of yourself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Melissa Wiley. I'm the CEO of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, or Florida statewide preservation nonprofit. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Linda Krenner from Florida State Hospital. I'm also the museum coordinator at the Archaeological Arts Museum in California. I'm here today with Foster.
Do you want to introduce yourself, or?
Yeah, I'm Elaine Dawson-Bose, physical,
Good.
and Judy Gornish from Tallahassee.
Another Judy.
Elaine Dawson.
I'm Steve Soft, both here in Tallahassee.
Well, wonderful. Well, welcome, everyone. So our next order of business now is to adopt our agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to today's agenda? If not, I need a motion to approve the agenda and a second.
This is Michael Francis. Oh, sorry.
Yes, you want to second it, Michael?
Sure, I'll second it.
Good. All right. Is there any discussion? All right, if no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. Now we have two sets of minutes, one from August 5th. I hope, commissioners, you had a chance to look them over. And we need a motion, well, are there any additional corrections to the minutes for August the 5th? If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes of that meeting and a second.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you,
Second,
Cliff. Who was that? Who seconded it?
it's Bill Clegg.
Okay, Bill, thanks. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. Now, our special category grant meeting that we had a little while ago, the minutes are also now available. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes? And I need a motion to approve the minutes for our 2024 special category grant meeting.
So moved, Bill Clegg.
Second. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor, please say aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Good. All opposed? All right, so they, motion carries. Thank you. Chairman's comments? I don't have any comments right now. I'm going to bring up, under new business, our Coalition for Historic Preservation to support our special category grant funding. I'm going to bring it up at the end of the meeting to tell you, share with you the progress that we've made and to ask for your help as commissioners. So everything else is going relatively fine. The governor put out his budget yesterday, and we'll hear a lot about that from our director, which I think we need to hear about it now. Director Lotay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ben. And thanks to the commission, those of you that are here and those of you that are online for your time. I will start out with the budget. You probably heard that the governor released his recommended budget day before yesterday. And so I'll start out with some of the positive things that we did get in the budget. And one is for the Museum of Florida History Master Plan. We had asked for $300,000 for a master plan. Some of you may know that the museum is closed right now. Unfortunately, there are some issues with the plaza out front of the building with lots of leaks. I don't know if I've spoken about that in previous meetings, but we've done Department of Management Services does own the building, so they're handling that contract. We're not as involved in that, but they have done a lot of testing to see where the leaks are coming from. I didn't actually realize there are drip pans in the ceiling that get emptied, and this has been going on for many, many years. We thought we got it fixed back when they replaced the pavers several years ago, but it's still leaking. So we'll know hopefully in February where we are with that, and then we'll be able to move forward with, when we can reopen the museum, or if we just want to go through with like a complete redesign, which is kind of exciting to think about, that I don't think the museum's redesigned since the building was ever opened. All that brown carpet down there, I'd love to just have a stab at, but yeah, so I'll have more to come on that at our next meeting, but that is good news that the $300,000 for that master plan was recommended. Obviously, there'd be a lot of fabrication to go in that too, but that's a very good start. We also were recommended for $525,000 for the Florida Main Street program, and that would be primarily for technical assistance, for business assistance, for an app for all of the Florida Main Street communities. If you're interested in more detail on that, I can provide that. We also were recommended for our underwater mapping equipment. Katie will probably go into more detail about, we received grant funding for a large vessel for the underwater folks, and we're getting new trucks for all of them, field vehicles. So this is just the next step if we were able to get this equipment attached to the boat that we just received, that would really put us in a good research place. So I'll let Katie talk in a lot more detail about that. And then also our small matching historic preservation grants list was fully funded in the recommended budget. So you may or may not know the special category grants, as far as I remember, have never been in a governor's budget ever. That's something that occurs during the legislative session, so if you didn't see that in there. I do want to have a further discussion about special category grants when Dr. Tomlinson comes up to do her reporting. I know you all were interested in changing some of the scoring criteria, and maybe you want to think about if you want to do a subcommittee or something like that, so we can,
That's a good idea.
talk about that when we get to that point. Also, legislative session, the dates for legislative session are March 7th through April 5th, I believe. We have a Main Street Day at the Capitol, which will be March 15th. And there is, I think Melissa Wiley will come up later and talk about some legislation that's been filed for the Historic Preservation Tax Credit Bill, HB 499 and SB 288. Were repeated from last year. They're the Main Street Tourism and Revitalization Act, which would give a state historic tax credit on top of the federal historic tax credit we currently have. And then I'll talk about, I guess, some things that were not included in the budget. We had requested some additional positions, and including the architect, and the architect was not included in the budget. We had also requested some OPS conversions, which meant that we would take some of our overage of OPS dollars and actually sort of trade it for a career service position, and that was not included. We actually, in the budget, have been reduced by 2 positions. And again, that's, obviously we're at a recommendation stage. It's not at the finalized stage, but that's where we are right now. We continue to have a lot of vacancies, so it wouldn't be a challenge to take 2 vacancies. We wouldn't have to let anyone go or anything like that. But, we do continue to have a lot of staff turnover. But we're making it work. We're seeing it through. And then also some good news I'll add, and you can ask me any questions if you'd like. The Mission San Luis received accreditation from the American Alliance of Museums. So that's just a really positive thing. I wanted to let you know that's something that has been in the works for 2 or 3 years, and I came in on the very tail end of it, and we got it across the finish line. So we were really excited about that, and we're thinking about having a free day at the Mission and a sort of a celebration on March the 4th is the tentative date for that. Also, I guess next I should, with your permission, Dr. Bent, have John Grandage come up. And I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that's in the budget is a $10 million line item that you may have noticed. And that is because we have found lead paint in several of our historic properties. And so there was a request put in to help us abate that paint. So we have staff that are a little in flux. We're working on the Martin House right now, and we should have them back in there later in the month. But I know John has dug a little bit more into the issue, and he manages, along with Department of Management Services, all of our construction projects. In addition to his outreach, he has a multi-pronged job. So I just want to have him come up and kind of give us a quick overview, if that's okay, of where those projects stand.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and I can sit here, right, not actually come with anything.
Oh, sure.
For dramatic
Provide the
effect.
microphone.
I have the microphone over here. So, as Alyssa said, we did have a $10 million line in the budget, the recommended governor's budget, and really what to provide some more context for this, we had previously identified work we wanted to do at the Messer House, which is at Mission San Luis, which is a very large masonry building with a huge basement, and it's really a fabulous 1930s block construction house with a limestone rubble veneer. It's really fantastic. And the work, we had a separate budget issue in for that for about $3 million, and we were lucky to be able to include into an expanded package a lot of work to restore the interior of the Brokaw-McDougall House, which is an 1858 antebellum home here in Tallahassee. And that would be another big chunk of that 10. And we have some work we need to do at the Knott House. We have some other projects funded under the American Recovery Plan Act, so the ARPA project that came to us year before last to replace the entire fire suppression system in the Knott House and also upgrade the HVAC system in the Knott House. And so we're also going to use some of the $10 million to kind of put everything back once we have done the life safety systems and the air conditioning systems. So this $10 million that is in the governor's budget would be on top of $1.9 million we received in ARPA funding in previous fiscal year. And then we also received the $13.8 million to build the artifact facility at Mission San Luis. So as Alyssa mentioned, we do have some abatement issues in all the historic properties. A lot of this has to do with the things that everyone is really familiar with in homes that were built prior to 1972. So this is a lot of window restoration, some plaster repair, and there are sundry other issues that come along with having buildings that we actually use quite a bit as office space, functional space, public space. These are all adaptive reuse type projects that we're talking about, and it's exciting that we have that much funding to really do quite a bit of deferred maintenance that has been put off for many, many years. And property like the Brocon McDougal House, we've replaced the roof on that building. Actually, Alyssa managed that project, and we did abatement on the windows. But beyond that, we're looking at the interior of the building not being systematically restored since 1974. So we can look back at projects from 2004, 2012. Well, you know, over the course of 50 years, this is the next big effort to really set us up for a longer term, correct a lot of the deferred maintenance issues so that we're not expending huge resources every year or piecemealing some of the restoration work. Now, in addition to the bigger properties, we also use several small houses on our historic properties for offices. There's about 1,000 square, there are two buildings on the Governor Martin site that are each about 1,000 square feet. One is a 1950s kind of infill that's on the edge of the Myers Park Historic District. The other is a wood frame cottage that's from the 1930s. And last year we did do a full abatement and restoration on the exterior of the wood frame building. And so now we're going to restore the interior, and we have ARPA money actually to put a nice ADA bathroom in that building that will also have a nice shower. So when the underwater archaeologists are coming in from doing their field work, they actually have some facilities that matches what they do and the things that they need. And in addition to that, we have a small wood frame house at the Grove property that's under 1,000 square feet that has all the original wood paneling and wood siding, and the windows haven't been touched in its lifetime other than maintenance coat on the interior. So we're going to restore that building as well. It's used as the primary offices for the Grove Museum. And finally, behind the Messer House at Mission San Luis, there's a garage building that's kind of lumped in with the bigger Messer House project, but we're also going to restore the windows there, restore the interior, and really overall bring all these buildings into their highest and best use. And so we're really lucky to be able to have that kind of potential funding. And Katie can talk a little bit more about the artifact facility, but that's underway. We've gone through the solicitation stage, and so we hopefully anticipate having the architectural firm selected under contract very soon. So then we would move into some of the work that needs to be done by us and mitigation that Katie can talk about on where the building is likely to go. And then we'll move into the design phase, and hopefully in future meetings we'll have really great things to share about what the building will look like on the inside and how it serves the needs of BAR collections and the public going forward for many years. And just one more final thing. We are getting ready, hopefully, to start a project on the Union Bank, where we haven't done anything but restore the windows on the Union Bank over the last decade. So we're going to do some stucco repair, repaint the outside, repaint the inside, and we're going to renovate the ADA restroom to be compliant with current Florida code and make a few other upgrades to the building. And that building we lease to the Black Archives at FAMU, and so we'll be working on with them on some new interpretation and things like that. So virtually every historic building we have funding, and we are really at a place where I think we have as much funding for this as we've ever had. And so now we just begin, you know, the multi-year projects. A lot of the 10 million would be in fixed capital, so those will extend out over several years. The ARPA projects, the deadline for those is 2026. And then we have our yearly appropriations that will chip away at the smaller projects. So got a lot going on at the historic site.
Yeah, so, yeah, just to summarize, so the ARPA money we already have, and that's for ADA, roofing,
Some fire
sprinkler.
suppression, and HVAC, and we actually, the ARPA money is also funding the re-thatching of the council house at Mission San Luis with the synthetic thatching. That's rated for a much longer lifespan and has been successfully installed on the reconstructed church out there. And so that's really gonna save quite a bit of maintenance costs over the long term.
And then if you're not familiar with the Union Bank, that is the building right in front of the historic Capitol, in the shadow of the Capitol. So I'm really excited of the potential of being able to do that. And if that all goes through and gets put to bed, we will, that will be funded out of our annual $500,000 maintenance budget. And then the 10 million line item is primarily, I think, for Messer House, for Commonwealth, and to get the lead issue under control. I'll also say that we did have staff in the building. We've done a lot of testing. We did air testing. All of the air testing was fine. If you know anything about lead, you pretty much have to ingest it in order for something to happen to you. So no one has come back with any symptoms or anything like that, but we felt, out of an abundance of caution, we need to get people out of those spaces. And the timing was kind of good because we've got these other projects going on to really get them to a good place. And so a lesson for you, have to maintain your historic building. So we're trying to do that, and I'm really proud that we have received the support to get that done.
It's been a long time coming. Yeah.
So, any questions?
It's a lot of money. How much was the ARPA money?
1.9.
Huh?
It was only 1.9 million.
1.9?
And there are 5 projects. 800,000 of that was the council house.
That's about $26 million when you add it all up.
Mm-hmm.
That is going into either historic buildings, curation, expansion, or lead abatement. And yeah, that's a lot. Good.
John does a lot of work, so I'm glad to have him working along.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Mhm. Good. Thank you. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We'll chew on that a bit. But now, when we get to our business items, we have a request to name a state facility, the Florida State Hospital Chapel Building. And who is going to bring that to the floor?
I got some coffee.
Okay.
I know a lot of things, and thanks, Pam, it's been a great help to the Appalachian cause.
Wonderful, wonderful. Introduce yourself again.
My name is Linda Krainer. I'm titled Grant Specialist at Florida State Hospital. I'm more of a museum coordinator with DCF, so they gave me a special name. But I came across, and I know the Sofsky family. I worked at Florida State Hospital for 15 years myself. And I just told them a story. My husband was the lawyer there, and I went up to study. I went back to FSU to study. Figured if I stayed home, I'd eat and watch TV. So I went there and took a break and was leafing through some job openings on paper back in those days, and came across one that I thought I could do, and said out loud, "Oh, I could do that job." My husband said he thought I said I wanted to do that job, and I got a call 2 weeks later for a job interview. And I'd been a paralegal for 20 years and didn't know anything about mental health, so I learned very quickly. At any rate, while I was there, I did meet Nancy Sofsky, who is Reverend Sofsky's wife. She and I worked together and consequently met Reverend Sofsky. In the course of doing history for Florida State Hospital for the Arsenal Museum, as well as the officers' quarters, which we have something coming up with that as well. I came across and had known about the chapel and knew that Bob Sofsky had been actively involved, but I had no idea how actively involved he had been. If it weren't for him, there would be no chapel at Florida State Hospital. From to 1973, they tried to get funding to build one, because at the time, he was having to go to all of the units to preach to the over 8,000 residents that were there at the time, and he was the only chaplain. 71, they got no funding, but he didn't give up. He had people write letters. He went to all the churches and had them all write letters to the legislative. And then in 1973, he came down to the legislative meeting and stayed here all day in Tallahassee. As a matter of fact, he told me he sat in one man's office for so long that the man finally came out and said, "Can I help you?" And ended up being
I'm so sorry. I seem to have lost audio.
I have as well, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, it must be a technical problem because I don't hear anything either.
Yeah.
Hi, we've had some sound issues. We'll be right back with you in just a moment. Thank you so much. Hello? We're back in. Thank you all for your patience.
Sorry, everyone, the line dropped, but we're back in.
okay. Back.
Yes.
We're talking.
Very much. Continue.
Right where you left
I'm gonna
off.
breathe now. He served at FSH, I want to say, FSH for nearly 32 years. He began when there was 8,000 residents there. I've provided you with a copy of a Tallahassee Magazine article. I apologize, I noticed that some of the bottom lines, my printer didn't get it all. There's also a newspaper article written by a Tallahassee reporter on Reverend Softy as well. His response to an inpatient population with many beliefs, he encouraged other preachers to come out to work with him. Numerous times he was not able to do that, so I found that he did study each of the religions so that he could perform the other ceremonies for each one of those. He is a Jacksonville native, so he is a Floridian. He also, from what I'm told, and the family can verify this for me, started a church down in Ocala. He went into an area in Ocala that did not have a church, and before he left, they had a church. So, but in Florida State Hospital, he said after the war he saw people at the end of fighting that struck hard at his heart. He was trained to hate them, but their poverty, their hopelessness, their total lack of direction struck me so hard that I slowly began studying in some way I could be worth something to them or to someone. It was here that he set his sights on ministry. The church ministry to the unchurched, the need of loving the unloved and the unlovable was something he couldn't dismiss from his mind. So Florida State Hospital was a perfect place for him. He did many different things while he was there. He witnessed segregation and actually helped with the segregation in the white and the black. He saw where the men had freedom of movement when he got there and the women did not. he worked hard to make sure that women had freedom of movement. So he did much more than just form a chapel. The article will tell you a lot more. I won't keep you. You can read all of that. I'm actually here to answer any questions that you might have. I can't think of a better person. Many of the buildings out there are named after individuals. This was his love, and I think the family can tell you that. His daughter just told me she got a letter from him when she lived in Washington, and at the top of the letter it said that they were just starting on the chapel. This was in 1976, and he said, wrote at the top, that they're starting on the chapel next week. He said it should be done hopefully in 6 months. He's really excited. And if you haven't been out there, it is a beautiful facility. It was damaged in Hurricane Michael. They have refixed it. It's back operational now. The residents there, before they met in the rec hall, and the rec hall is this big building with a basketball court. So actually, you sat in a basketball court. And it wasn't a religious ceremony, they felt. So when the chapel was built, they actually had a place where they could go. He was instrumental in getting many preachers to come out. Eventually, Florida State Hospital did obtain another preacher, so there were 2 of them. But he once said he was doing 60 church services a week at the hospital, and at one point he lost his voice, and he had to cut it back to 30 sessions a week. So he managed to do that as well. So I hope that you'll consider this. Our board of directors approved it. The directors at the unanimously voted to pursue this. So I'm hoping that you will decide also. And again, thank FPAN. I have FPAN exhibits in my museum now.
There you go, there you go.
Thank you.
Great.
Any questions? Did you bring these articles with you
I did.
today?
I did.
So I'd love to make sure that the commissioners not here are emailed these.
I already emailed them.
Because it's
Thanks, Sarah.
fascinating.
The funny part is we lived in Killearn, and we had a house, you know how they have the house behind you. And there was a new family moved in, and she'd been there for maybe 6 months or so, and I ran into her, and we were talking. I was on my way to Chattahoochee, and I said I was on my way to Chattahoochee. She said, oh, I just did an article about one of the men who used to work at Florida State Hospital. So my neighbor was the author of that particular article. And so I had her come up to the museum, and she did a lunch and learn about her article. So it was a small world, so I figured it's kind of fate. I was meant to do this. So hopefully you'll see that too. But yeah, there's an article. There's also one from Mary Ann Lindley, who used to be a Tallahassee writer, and she wrote one on his last day. So it's quite informative. So.
Well, I know there have been a lot of changes in mental health administration and processes in the last 25 years or so. But what is the number of patients generally today at the hospital?
Now, as I said, I'm the museum person, not at Florida State Hospital, so I'm going to give you a guesstimate. I believe there's 800 of them now, 900. So there's a big move to return them to the community. I know that. So I work there.
Right.
So it's been a long time since I worked in the mental health field.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you. You did great for a museum person.
Well, thank you very much. I tried.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any discussion or any comments anybody wants to bring? Would the family like to say anything?
I'd like to, but go ahead.
Well, please.
It was so much a part of our lives, starting in 1961, because my father didn't ask for much, and we could tell this was a passion for him, that people have a sacred place to go to. And it wasn't just Christian, it was Jewish, it was a different faith. And see it finally come about after all those years was such a blessing. And when I first walked into that chapel, when I came back from Washington and walked in, it felt like such a beautiful, sacred space. And it just meant so much to him. I did for the people that he worked with.
Good, good.
Madam Chair, I'd like the honor of recommending approval of this recommendation, of this request. This is John Phelps.
I would like to second that motion. It's Michael Francis.
All right.
Before we vote on it,
Right.
you want
Oh,
to
yeah,
say-
so now it's time for discussion.
Are you sure? Heck, he looks just like his father.
Well, good. Commissioners, do you have any input on this? Any ideas? Good. Discussion? And there's a motion and a second, so I guess we need to ask for everyone in favor of naming the chapel at Florida State Hospital, the Softy, what's the official name?
Robert Foster Jr.
Yes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, so the motion carries, and congratulations. It will now be official. Thank you very much. All right, well, that was fun. Right, let me get back to the agenda. Now, the next, order of, yes, let our guests find their way out as we deal with our, thank you very much for coming.
Hard to find your way out of the building, it's like a maze.
That
I
was,
wanted
that's
to get
nice
lost.
of you, right. I've gotten lost back in the day. I know, I wish we'd had a picture of it to see.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't we? Okay, so, now, annual election of assistant presiding officer. Now, I used to be the vice chair. Is that what we're talking about?
I believe so. Sarah, is that what we're looking to do?
Is that what we're looking at?
Chairman, or not chairman, but vice
The
chair.
vice chair.
The vice chair, right, yeah. I wondered why we didn't have one. We just hadn't gotten around to it.
Well, I think Rick has been the vice chair for 2 years.
Okay, do we have to re-up it?
No, you just vote for, yeah, you can vote for whoever you know, you want.
It's a term for 2 years?
No, it's just for 1 year. We just missed one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Carry over.
We have to do it every year. We did it year one, we forgot year two,
Yeah.
now we're doing it.
Yes.
Now, Rick, are you on the line?
Rick's not here today, I don't believe.
Well, since he's not here, that's dangerous. Is he willing?
I don't know.
I assume he's willing. We will assume that.
I would think so.
Probably.
Right. Are there any other, what do you call it, nominations, for vice chair? No. All right. So, lacking any other nominations, I'll close them, and so now, we need a motion and a second. No, we don't. Do we need a
I
motion?
guess you need a
Yeah, we do.
nomination for Rick to,
Right, a nomination
That
for Rick to be the vice chair for the coming year. Is there such a motion?
I'd move it. John Phelps.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second,
Kathleen?
Bill Clay.
All right. Okay, is there any more discussion? Since Rick's not here, I mean, you know, that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. All right, all in favor of the motion to have Rick Gonzalez be our vice chair of the Florida Historical Commission for the coming year, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Rick will get the notice in the mail. Good, thank you, thank you. All right, now, dates for upcoming meetings. I don't know what they are, but I looked on my calendar and I didn't have them, so we need to deal with that. And, Sarah, do you have a list of dates?
I know, I need them from Ruben.
So, this is Ruben. Your FHC dates follow my National
That's what
Register,
I thought, right.
Review Board meeting dates. So the next National Register Review Board meeting is May 4th, so that means the FHC is on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And then after that, it's the first Thursday in August is my National Register Review Board meeting. So I believe that's August the 3rd. That would make it August the 4th for the FHC. And I'm double checking this in my calendar real quick here. Let's see.
August 4th.
Yep. And then, the first Thursday in November is the last National Register Review Board meeting of the year. That's the 2nd. So that means that November 3rd would be the final FHC of the calendar year.
Good, thank you. So that's, May the 5th, August the 4th, November the,
go ahead.
November the 3rd.
I was gonna,
Special category.
we are targeting the same week that we always do, the last week of September, and this week, those dates for Wednesday and Thursday would be September 27th and 28th.
Good. All right, May the 5th, August the 4th, September 27th, 28th, November the 3rd will carry us through this calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please let Sarah know if you've got any,
Yeah.
any conflicts with those. We want to change them as soon as possible if we
Mm-hmm.
have to do that.
Right. I hope we can have more people come in person. It makes for a better meeting. And, that's my 2 cents. All right, thank you. Now we've got our committee reports, and, Katie, you're up first with the Bureau of Archaeological Research.
Hi, this is Katie. Been very busy, lots of exciting things on the horizon, and including our new facility, and with the solicitation, I was pinching myself during that. It actually felt real, it was really happening, this is amazing, long needed, and what goes along with that, with getting a new collections facility, especially on such a special gem, archaeological landscape as Mission San Luis, is we also get to then do a compliance portion, of course, of the building itself. And so our public lands archaeology portion, Paulette McFadden and Jerry Lee in particular are taking the lead on, they've developed some research designs to begin the mitigation process, phase 1, phase 2 of some of the areas, even though we don't have the full blueprint yet of where it's going, it's kind of limited space of where it can go, so we know we can follow through on some phase 1 that was done in the 90s and 80s, and continue with that and explore potential Appalachian features that they think they found back then. And what's also great about this is we're jumping on it as soon as possible, but we're also going to bleed into Archaeology Month, and that's actually now informing and has developed our theme this year, which is Follow the Artifact. Archaeology Month is March, the month of March, and so throughout March, we're going to be having either phase 1 or phase 2 units being open at that site that people are able to come and see our professional archaeologists work. And of course, we're working very closely in tandem with the Bureau of Historic Preservation to ensure state land compliance is being done and everything's in order. And we're also going to be having tours. Jerry Lee is going to be giving a tour of Mission towards the end. He's also going to give like a synopsis of how did this particular excavation go. And we can even have, we're going to have tours of our collections lab, and also have some of the objects that are coming out of these units actually get processed and get conserved if needed. And then you can see the process of why we do archaeology. We don't just go out and dig holes, there's very purposeful reasons, research designs, how we conduct these archaeological excavations, what happens after those artifacts are removed and then processed and then conserved and put into collections for display, research, exhibits, and so I think we're very excited about it. And we're also going to have peppered in there potentially some GPR tours of the Grove, and then also some regarding active work that's being done there. And then also our underwater folks are going to have lectures about their phase 1 archaeological research that was just conducted, geophysical research in Dog Island. So look forward to that. I know John's going to help us get that all out there on social media, and so I'll let you guys know and send out links as soon as we get more dates and information settled down. But that kind of leads me also into the geophysical equipment then that was discussed and made it into the budget, of which we are so excited. Our underwater team is tasked with having to survey, locate, protect underwater sites across the state of Florida, and that includes one of the longest, or the longest continuous water line in coastline in all of the continental U.S., as well. That's not even including riverways and any navigable waterways. And so, of course, needless to say, less than 1% of that has actually been surveyed because there's just so much. One of the things you need for survey is geophysical equipment. Our geophysical equipment currently is from the 90s, and it has aged out, and you can't even buy parts for it anymore. And our guys have been mavericks. I say that needs to be on their cards. They're MacGyvers. They just know how to put things together with bubble gum and duct tape and just make it work. But finally, they kicked the bucket. And so it's been very hard to acquire some of the geophysical equipment needed to do this important survey work. And so we're just so thrilled to hear that it made it through the budget, especially that comes in tandem with, they had gotten a federal grant, NOAA DEP grant, to actually get a vessel that would be suitable, because again, our vessels were always usually hand-me-downs from FWC. They were usually some sort of, either turtle poaching boats or something that were confiscated, even human trafficking boats. And again, it's been kind of held together, so it's exciting. We're actually getting a research vehicle, and this geophysical equipment, which is a side scan sonar and a sub-bottom profiler, and we do have currently a magnetometer that works. And with all this equipment in tandem, you get so many different levels of data. You can map these floors almost in 3D. And just the work that they did with not even as high quality of these kind of geophysical equipment in Dog Island, they've already successfully identified shipwreck, paleo-landscape, intact submerged paleo-landscape segments. You know, I don't want to put words in their mouth. They're processing the data right now, but more to come on that. And they're going to do their phase 2 work in the next few months. It got a little delayed because of the lead paint process, but so anyway, so that's if you have any further questions about that or this equipment, just let me know. We are finally very excited to get that in the truck and the building. It's just a dream come true.
I have a comment about that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I can wait till after.
Okay, or you want to ask now?
Amazing to hear, and I can't believe you've been functioning with the stuff you have for so long. And it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
My suggestion is, because when the legislators vote for this stuff, or the governor puts this in his budget or whatever, sometimes it's just like a passing thing. Like they don't get it, they don't understand the ramifications. So my suggestion would be, like, since it's brand new equipment and we're gonna be doing really amazing stuff with it, like, let's make sure the images and some of the discoveries and stuff that happens right away is immediately somehow gets back to them. Like,
Okay.
You gave us this funding, and now look what we're doing with it.
Yeah.
And it also keeps kind of DHR, in their head.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're, when we do excavations out at the mission, I've already talked to our legislative affairs person and potentially having them come out and see, what they funded this for us, so we want them to be involved
It
in
is
the
critically
process.
important for them to be able to put the pieces together. Otherwise, we just keep asking, they just think we're a department that keeps asking for money and money, but it's gonna be so cool if they see it.
Oh, yes, and I totally agree. Images and going out and doing actual site visits, it's such a different impact than just having me write that all out or reading it.
It's constantly a thank you for this, look what we've done with this.
Yes. Oh, and we are eminently grateful, I can say.
And we're hoping to take the secretary out on one of the trips on the survey, which I think got delayed for some various reasons, but he's definitely on board with and interested in going out and seeing what the work that they're doing. And
already we have presentations planned for the phase 1, what data we've already found in the process to the secretary, and then, wanting to get the secretary out to actually see how this goes. Very excited. Just a great idea. I totally agree. Thank you for that. And then, besides, PLA planning and plotting out for, of course, doing this, compliance work at Mission San Luis, they also have been, working really closely. They do the Florida Forever, cultural resource interagency team. They evaluate new projects for, the Florida Forever, the state's premier land conservation program. And this past quarter, PLA aided in the evaluation of over 12,000 acres of potential new conservation lands under the program. And Paulette McFadden, our supervisor of PLA, who works very closely with law enforcement and does quite a bit of damage assessments for law enforcement, actually assisted FWCLE and Marion County state attorneys to assess a looting damage case to a county-owned conservation area. And the suspect ended up being charged with 8 felonies and 4 misdemeanors because of really, using backhoes to systematically excavate.
Where was this?
This is in Marion County, to systematically excavate public lands of which he was living on, I think for free, and looting the site for years.
And I think
so,
county equipment.
and use county equipment too.
Holy,
Yeah, and so the amount of,
that's the bad old days, isn't that?
the volume, the volume of soil and dirt and, that was removed and displaced and artifacts, looted was pretty astounding. And so the county had been following him for a while and asked for our assistance to assessment, so.
Seems we've lost audio again.
Yes, it does.
Hi, we've lost audio again. Please hold.
Hello? Oh, we can hear you.
We're back.
We're back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
So anyway, where is the case? He's been charged with these 12 counts.
He's been charged, they're still moving forward, they may have actually some additional charges potentially pending, against them, and I guess, I'll have Paulette keep me posted, I can update at the next meeting, but yeah, it's a pretty egregious one, but we're always happy to assist FWCLE and law enforcement.
I've done damage assessment back in the day, and it is very important work.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is,
and she's so good at it.
because those cases go straight to court.
Exactly, right?
Right, you're right, you report to the judge.
And it's great to have the support now of a lot of the state attorneys who see these as being cases enough that they want to take to court. That was always, an issue before.
Right.
Not all state attorneys consider cultural resource cases to be higher enough on the list to move forward, but now we're seeing a change.
Right, that's good, that's good news.
Yeah.
That will send a message to the looting community.
Exactly, and there's a lot of network there, so that's good. But I'll give you an update at the next one. And then in regards to our collections conservation, so we have a new conservator named Darby Robbins, and so we finally have another, conservator in there, and it's fantastic. We have a full team again, and they're moving forward, and they've done some great work, and I actually invite you, anybody who's here, if you want to see one of the best conservator works I have ever seen, conservation works, is there was a concretion that we had obtained that from one of the 1715 ships, and it was just completely concreted, but with the expert eyes of our conservators, they knew that there was something very special under that
And it
concretion.
was thrown away.
Yeah, it was basically, right, and then,
broken in
yeah,
half.
broken in half, and was gonna be discarded by other people, and so, they have painstakingly, over the last, I think, 3 years, chipped away at this concretion, and we have before and after pictures, and it is this absolutely gorgeous, stunning silver rapier with leather still present and preserved on it, and very finely hand-woven, leather rope that's on the part of the handle, the hilt, and it's just pristine and gorgeous, and I have not seen such stellar conservation work done before. So it's down on display in the conservation lab. If you're welcome to go and see it and just see what a great job and why this process takes so long, but what our conservators can do for this.
Those concretions look like nothing.
They look like nothing.
They look like a chunk of slimy, black metal, you know, that couldn't have anything in them. And I've seen the x-rays, is the way they often see what's inside.
Right.
And you'll see the images on the x-rays of nails and rapiers and sword blades and all kinds of metal. In fact, sometimes, like say you have a knife or a dagger, the whole thing is gone. It's all gone. It's dissolved. There's nothing but goo in the space where the artifact took up. And they drill into that, they drain the goo out, they shoot in fiberglass, let it dry, crack it open, and there it is. Every little mark and scratch and
you have a perfect replica
it's
of
a
it.
perfect replica.
Yeah. And they're experts at that too. They do all kind of casting with these concretions. And it's there's so much that can be done with them.
Yeah.
Retail business.
Yeah, back in the day, we finally got we'd go to hospitals and we got our own x-ray machine, and it's just amazing what's inside it.
Yeah.
And when you're in one of those conservation labs, you hear those drills going all day.
Yeah.
Chipping away at it. That's wonderful. Silver rapier with leather on it.
It's stunning. It's stunning.
That's a good follow-the artifact.
That is gonna get a feature.
It's a wonderful
It's definitely gonna get a
idea.
feature in Archaeology Month. Yeah.
Wow, I want to go see it after this meeting.
Okay, we're gonna go. Okay.
I would just like to take a second to acknowledge Rick Gonzalez has entered the meeting.
Oh. Congratulations, Rick.
Congratulations.
Hello. Good morning,
Yeah, you are
everybody.
now we re-elected you to the vice chair of the Florida Historical Commission in your absence on the assumption
That always
you
happens.
would accept the nomination.
Yes, thank you.
And I think and Rick, I think it was in perpetuity.
You know, I'm on my third governor, so let's see how long that lasts.
Oh, wow, that's all right. Me too. Maybe the fourth, I don't know.
Thank you, Judy.
One last final thought before I take up too much of your guys' time, but to actually go into the 1715, so a sizable loan of material was now just put on loan to the University of Indiana from our collection staff. Of course, we always aim to get these pieces out for exhibit, to promote them. They're, Florida's artifacts, the people of Florida's artifacts, but also we also send them abroad as well. And it's focusing on the Spanish plate fleets, and it's gone out, and the exhibit will be opening soon, but it's going to be a pretty stunning
And
exhibit.
Indiana, at the university there?
University of Indiana,
They have a big underwater program.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Right. Yeah, of all places.
yeah. And that's it for me.
Well, thank you. That's a lot of good and interesting news. Yes. Now, historic preservation with,
Ruben.
Yeah. Sorry, Ruben, I'm still making the connection. Well, wait a minute now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Judy.
You're very welcome.
So, hello everyone, again, Ruben Acosta. So just brief updates from BHP. We've been busy, keeping up with all the work and things like that that we're responsible for. And managing to do that with several vacancies and multiple programs that we have. So we're working on filling those. Thankfully, like our compliance and review staff are mostly filled. They only have a couple vacancies there. And then we're making do in the other sections. So the good thing is that the people who are here are amazing. I've got great staff who are really dedicated to what they do. And we've been chugging along. I want to thank the members of the FHC that are on my National Register Review Board. We've kind of had a marathon session at the beginning of this year where we had 2 National Register Review Board meetings in 2 weeks. So that was thanks to Hurricane Nicole, who decided to pay us a visit on the day of our November meeting. So over this past month, they've reviewed 16 proposed listings for the National Register and approved 15 of them, and one of which was tabled until May. So staff is working on implementing the board's comments and recommendations on that one. And we also proposed 3 delistings for properties that have been demolished, and they approved those requests to delist. So National Register continues to chug along, and we will see how this year turns out. Last year, we did approximately 23 National Register nominations, so it's a little bit slow, but that's okay. It's just the kind of lingering effects of the pandemic and stuff. We were busy reviewing a lot of grant projects during that time period. Staff was doing a lot of concurrences on completed surveys that have been funded by grants, or they were reviewing survey reports and things like that to make sure that they were meeting 1A46.
And not to interrupt, but we're trying to do more districts, and districts take a lot longer than individual buildings. So
and not
focus on districts.
Exactly, and the districts, they take a lot of time just due to the complexity regarding researching them and evaluating them and doing the survey, but also the outreach and the public engagement that they require. Takes up a lot of staff time in finding local partners and making sure that all of that public outreach is done. For our compliance section, this year, with the 2 most recent storms, we have taken a greater role in the disaster response in regards to historic resources. So we have had a staff person that's been tasked with the JFO, I forget exactly what the acronym stands for.
The Joint Field Office.
The Joint Field Office. So the Department of Emergency Management requested that one of our staff participate in that along with FEMA so that they could better take historic resources into consideration in their disaster response. And so over the last about 2 to 3 months, we have had a staff person, it's been Kelly Chase for the last couple of times, going down to the JFO, which had been in Braden and is now in Lake Mary outside of Sanford, and assisting them in essentially doing evaluations and doing site visits and things like that, because Hurricane Ian impacted nearly 30 counties across the state of Florida, and Hurricane Nicole did, about half as many or thereabouts, and with so many historic resources located on the coast or along waterways and stuff, there were impacts. And so we've been participating and assisting with that, and hopefully we are going to be building and reinforcing these relationships for future events. And we've spent quite a bit of staff time and money on updating the disaster guidance that we have for local governments, state agencies, and property owners. That's a major grant project that came out of Hurricane Michael that we're moving forward with in the final stages. So hopefully this year we will have a publication that we will be able to provide to everyone. And then I'm also working through the Certified Local Governments Program in doing a disaster response training. either in late May or early June this year, where we're going to invite local governments to attend training from the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. They developed a specific disaster mitigation and planning training through their CAMP, stands for Commission Assistance and Mentorship Program. So we're going to partner with them to do that type of training later this year, most likely to be held in Sanford, Florida, which is kind of a very central location for most of our local governments to participate in that were impacted by the storm. So that's a big thing in compliance, otherwise they're chugging along. In the site file, they are nearly done processing our large-scale surveys that we funded using Hurricane Michael response monies that were passed on to us from the National Park Service. So we had done, I think it was 6 county-wide surveys of panhandle counties that were impacted by Hurricane Michael. Those were Jackson, Calhoun, Liberty, Gulf, Franklin, Wakulla, parts of Gadsden counties.
Gadsden was funded partially out of our regular HPS funding. It was just rural resources, but the other 6.
But the other 6,
were definitely
yeah.
full counties, which is amazing to have that data.
Just for the building?
Just for buildings, yeah. These counties have not had comprehensive surveys since the late 80s, early 90s. And so when we were approached following Hurricane Michael and asked, well, what's historic out there, we couldn't give them an exact answer. So we used the response monies to do comprehensive surveys, and we're going to be using that as models moving forward. So our goal is to do county, 1 or 2, depending on how much money we have, countywide surveys a year moving forward, which will be really, really, really useful because, again, for many counties, we do not have comprehensive surveys, or if we do have surveys, they are quite out of date. So we'll be using that as a model, and all of that information will be put into the site file, and hopefully later this year, we'll be rolling out parts of a new quote-unquote site file, where we've been working with our IT folks here to update a lot of the technology on the back end, and then hopefully make it a bit more accessible to the public and to consultants and stuff, the new web portals and things. So that's something that we've been working on. Under the Main Street program, that program continues to be active and growing. Our Main Street coordinator and one of our other staff recently did like a blitz down into Central and South Florida, where they hit like 5 or 6 different communities and did a resource team for the community of Apalaka, which is a new Main Street community. And in the process, they did several meetings, and we have 3 potential reactivations, so returning communities into the fold that had kind of gone astray. So those are Overtown, Auburndale, and Lake Worth. So hopefully that will continue spreading the reach of the program and essentially helping to promote the intersection between historic preservation and economic development, and really address, some of those questions as to why do historic preservation and how does that benefit our community. And so this is a very important program. We're hoping to hire an assistant for the program to take on more of the administrative work, so that way our program coordinator can focus on the big picture aspects of the Main Street program, processing, applications, all that fun stuff. We're also deep into our planning for our Main Street/Florida Trust Conference, which is coming up in July and will be held in Ocala. Unfortunately, I don't have the specific dates in front of me, but I'm certain that our partner here, Melissa Wiley, can fill those in if she has those. The other big partnership program that we have under BHP is the Certified Local Governments Program, where we have currently 83 communities participating in that program. I expect by the end of this year, we'll be above 85. So we have 2 active applications at the moment, one for Wilton Manors and one for the City of Venice, where I received the application for City of Venice earlier this month. The CLG program coordinator is another one of our vacancies that I'm trying to hire for. I've been managing the program, ever since our previous coordinator, Mariah Justice, left, back in, I think it was May or June of last year. It's just the job market has been tough and competing for the skilled people that we need for that position. And then we're also working, myself and John Grandage and several others in the Bureau are working on doing the Planning for Preservation Month, which is in May of this year. Our theme is going to be survey, so we have a pretty good idea of involving the public and doing some basic historic resource survey, kind of in the same way that other organizations like the Wikimedia Foundation do, like their Summer of Monuments, where people can take photos and submit them of historically important places, so that those places are recorded and things like that. So we've got an idea for that. We're still working through all of the details, and hopefully at our May board meeting, I'll be able to tell you, we're in Preservation Month, and this is the awesome stuff that we're doing. Please participate. So that's basically BHP in a nutshell. If I forgot anything, I'm terribly sorry. I will endeavor to improve my reporting.
The Main Street Coordinator?
Catherine Beck is our Main Street Coordinator.
Well, I do have a question.
Yes.
In your countywide surveys, why are archaeological sites ignored?
They're not ignored. It's just that the type of survey necessary for buildings is very different from the type of survey from archaeological.
Right.
I'd be glad to do some countywide surveys, and I would assume that we would partner with BAR to do that type of stuff. When I used to work at the state of Nebraska 7 years ago now, there was almost always some sort of comprehensive archaeological survey done. Over there, we would do it based upon river basins, is how they would, it's like, we would have one like the Republican River Basin, and we would use some of our money to do a historic resource survey for that. But since I'm not an archaeologist, I don't know the details of how to do that.
I will say, this money was specifically related to Hurricane Michael, the disaster money from that. So, the way that the funding worked, archaeological survey isn't something that they were, funding in that way. It was only for mitigation of archaeological sites, and there was something that had been affected by the hurricane that was eroding, stop that, not survey work. Yes, there is also the money that would be, we only have so much money to go around for the survey, but, our regular HPS money is not restricted in that way. We can do archaeological survey, work with that, but we would have to go through the NEPA process.
And I'll say that the real need was directed toward buildings because we've got FEMA projects coming in and people wanting to do demolished houses and things like that. So that's the vast majority of the projects that we've got, but I like your idea of doing an archaeology survey.
Well, I mean, the sites, there are certain sites in every county that are more vulnerable to them, the ones that are heavily wooded, the ones that are on the banks of rivers or streams, they concentrate around water. I'm pleasantly surprised that not too many of the sites have been damaged except by tree falls, and those are terribly damaging to archaeological sites. So just going to the known sites and checking them is something, it doesn't take a lot of money, and it's not rocket science to see if there are any artifacts in the tree tip-ups.
And that is something damage assessment was an eligible cost.
Did they do it?
Well, we had some grant projects, but we didn't fund internally damage assessment, no. We didn't contract out for that kind of work, no.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should think about fixing that,
Definitely, and I mean, we can also look at having more staff go out and do, I know Katie folks did do a lot of site visits on things like that, on individual sites, so.
Yeah, and you're coordinating with other people who are in other areas and getting through some, quite a bit of human remains cases, actually, especially from, not for Hurricane Michael, but for the last Hurricane Nicole that I have.
Ian, was it Ian or?
Actually, Ian did
enough archaeological damage, but Nicole did a lot because of just hitting all those barrier islands and all those areas that were already eroding.
Eroding, right.
And that amount of water and storm surge just, I mean, that's where the majority of the archaeological.
Well, in terms of activating the public,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that the public can go do.
Right.
You know, the archaeological organizations, chapters, the FPAN centers, they can go along eroding places where the storm has aggravated eroding and just see if there's any artifacts showing.
They were wonderfully helpful with that, help us get immediate boots on the ground, and then also with the land managers and at the universities. So it's been very, very great. It's full front.
So in a way, you've been doing that
Yes.
in VAR, and
Right.
we've been doing the building.
Yeah, we've been doing the building,
Okay, all right.
like,
Yeah.
I'm just getting on the
yeah, because, like, you know, following the storms, you know, we immediately reached out to all of our local government partners, and we shared, I've been collecting over the years as
Right.
much documentation and not just how to plan stuff, but literally how to fix a flood-ravaged building or how to address wind damage, all that stuff. And I've collected everything and put it onto a Google Drive where I can easily just share links to various communities, and it's all essentially open source, you know, public documents from government agencies and things like that. And so that they can then share it directly with contractors, property owners, business organizations, and things like that, so that they know what they can do to fix their historic building in such a manner where they're not going to negatively impact the integrity of those properties. You know, we touched base with everybody that, I know that there were some partner organizations like the Florida Trust that had a team go out and do, damage assessments and surveys and shared that information and things like that. So we are working to be a lot more active on that. Catherine Beck, our Main Street coordinator, has been key in that with her experience from working in Department of Economic Opportunity and having her other contacts within state government and knowing which entities to reach out with, to partner with, and a lot of our greater involvement of following Hurricane Ian and then also Hurricane Nicole was the result of her building this network that then we've been able to tie into. And then Alyssa helping us connect with everybody as well and getting all of the official requests for assistance. So we've been a lot more involved in doing that this year than under previous storms.
And if I could just jump in with that too, so after Hurricane Ian, our bureau came together and created a hurricane response. And that also includes for collections facilities, reaching out to museums that do have the state collections on exhibit, seeing how they fared, what can we do, how can we support them, as well as, you know, reaching out to all the land managers and all the different contacts that we all have and working in tandem to see what the needs are, you know, when do they need our help to physically come out there? Can we get other people out there if they need something more dire, we can't get down there right away? And it worked very well because shortly after Nicole hit, and that we got to put that into effect and actually came into
Excellent.
And
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think another point of discussion we could have when we start to talk about special category grants is right now when we talk about archaeology, it's usually site specific. So we could talk more about, whether that's expanded to do a little more of that damage assessment or, you know, protection measures could be built for some sites. And that's something I would personally like to see opened up a little wider.
Right, there's probably a short list of sites that are just really vulnerable now, that have often human remains rotting out. I know we've had several over in Escambia County over the years, where there was a quarantine island, and people died at Quarantine Island. And then the storm would erode the sand, would erode the island, and then would leave the burials in shallow water. You know, sometimes encased in roots, sometimes not so much, but they were there nonetheless, and it was due to storm damage. These were historic burials, of course, but still, you know, what do you do?
Right.
Right.
Great.
And, but everybody helps, you know, and there are quarantine islands all around any, port,
Right.
you know, They are, they're usually vulnerable to large storms. Now, what do you do about them and how you protect it, that's another thing, you know. And they're working on a lot of different ways to try to protect those particular sites. But anyway, it's an idea for special category grants, you know. To maybe come up with a model program for a county or something like that. Yeah, you know, we'll talk about that next. Special category grants. Okay, thank you, Ruben. Thank you. And I'm glad to know that archaeology is just in another side of the house. Right, that's great.
And we talk all the time.
I know, yeah. Okay, so now, let's talk about our grant program update.
Alrighty, well, everyone's favorite topic. Y'all do spend a lot of time invested in our grant program. I don't really have a lot to update today just because we're kind of in this slow period because we're between cycles. But
so that's nice.
Yeah, well, we're busy.
I know.
Eric wouldn't say we're slow. Well, it's our slow time, quote unquote slow for special category and small matching, but we are managing the African American Cultural and Historical Grant Program.
Right.
That was new this year, and also we have the Hurricane Michael subgrants and a few Irma subgrants still going as well. So grant staff is actually really busy. But in terms of just updates for the commission, I wanted to remind you the cycle finished for fiscal '24, actually in November because we had to delay our meeting. But we did submit for small matching recommended list of 54 projects, which comes out to $2.3 million. We have a $1.5 million recurring line item in Land Acquisition Trust Fund for small matching grants, and we put forward the balance to fully fund the list, which the governor did include, so hopefully the legislature will fully fund them, which traditionally they have for the last 10 years or so. I think there might have been 1 year where they did partially funded small matching, but we expect that will be fully funded.
And the governor put that in his budget?
Yes.
Right.
And then for special category, you all reviewed and ranked 77 projects that scored high enough to move forward. So the list for fiscal '24 totaled $21.5 million. So that's what the legislature will be considering. Those, as Alyssa said, those...
No, that was last year.
Oh, I wrote it wrong. You're right. It was 33 projects.
Right.
It was 33 projects.
33, there we go. Right.
Yeah. Oh, and you,
so busy last year, we didn't have a lot of applications.
Because you did so much work, you knew the exact number from last year, right? No, I do have the list in front of me, and you're correct. It was 33 projects totaling $8.4 million.
Right.
I just didn't update that on my note sheet. As Alyssa said, we usually, those grants get sent to the legislature via our Department of State grants book. So all the legislators have that now, and they'll be considering that list. And usually it's not included in the governor's budget. So we hope that you will be as successful this year with your coalition as you were last year, because that was awesome. So that's the list. Just to update on what we sent forward. And I wanted to touch on the rule revision, which Alyssa mentioned earlier. So currently, right now, we update the rule every year. Usually it's just to make changes based on new things that come up with technology or questions that grantees ask, you know, that we want to address if we keep getting the same types of questions and things like that. So the rule this year, we finished it right after our meeting. We sent it to General Counsel, the proposed revisions. We sent them to General Counsel in December, and that's in rulemaking process now. They have already published the notice of rule development, and I spoke to General Counsel yesterday, and they're planning on publishing the notice of proposed rule, which would start the 21-day public comment period in the next few weeks. So
I signed it yesterday.
Yeah, there, good.
A few more signatures.
So I think what we wanted to talk about, because you did have a lot of ideas at the end of the meeting in November on ways to update the rule in the next cycle, and
Alyssa mentioned, we didn't know if you all wanted to maybe have a subcommittee that met separately to because we can make changes that you propose, but we need sort of to talk through the changes, because not all changes will be good for the program, and you guys have a lot of really good ideas. I will tell you, Kathleen and Rick, we did include a question. We had enough time after the meeting to drop a question into the application of describe the physical context of the resource in your location. So where is it, is it in the center of town? Is it near a Main Street district or whatever? Because that was one thing that the two of you especially asked several times. So that change did get incorporated this time. So really it's sort of opening it up to you on how you want to handle the recommendations you would want to make for the next rule change that we would do after this cycle's over.
Well, I think one of our biggest problems, it's not a new problem, but one that keeps surfacing every time we sit down and score these proposals, that I think it was a general, and I think I'm speaking for the whole commission, and let's talk about it a little bit, about the scoring. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the scoring points in front of me, but I think they need to be revised, mm-hmm. So that they're not so general that, an exhibit grant application doesn't have the kind of impact, or it isn't, so that they're more tailored. And I do think that a subcommittee of us, of the commission, would be important to have. We don't have to meet in person, we can certainly meet on Zoom, but, we need to also refresh on our problems.
Right.
We do them in a big rush, and they're fresh on our minds right after we score, and now we've forgotten it all.
Right.
But not exactly. But the problem needs to be addressed, the issue of addressing the scoring of special category grants. And if there needs to be revisions, and if so, what should they be? Mm-hmm. Now, what's the process for that? Now, let's say we have a subcommittee, the subcommittee comes up with some recommendations. What's the timetable?
I think it could be, it's sort of what we used to do for the, we had a committee for the awards. In the past, we would do a subcommittee, and then they would meet, and then at the next meeting, present their recommendations for the whole commission to discuss and vote on. So if we did a subcommittee, we could meet sometime between, everyone's schedules, depending, sometime before the next meeting, or maybe the next one, because we don't have to do this before the next meeting.
Because the next one is in May.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and we could do it before the May or August meeting, and then present those committee recommendations at the full board at one of those two meetings.
And then they would go in effect for our September review?
No, they wouldn't go into effect until next year, because we would have to go through the rulemaking process. So we usually do the rulemaking process. We start working on all of those revisions around the time of this, like right when we end the special category meeting. We get them in, get them to general counsel usually by November or December. So as long as we had those recommendations by the October meeting, then we could incorporate them in the rule for next year.
Or you mean the November?
Yeah. November meeting, correct.
So do we want to shoot for the August meeting, if that's possible?
Well, maybe it's a question for you all. Do you think if we shoot for the November meeting, then
does that give you enough time to get them into?
We can get them in as long as they're not huge, but even if they're huge, we can make it work, because by the time we had the meeting in November this time, we had already finished all of the revisions and we're ready to submit them to general counsel. So we can do that. I mean, if you did it in the November meeting, the special category meeting would be fresh in your mind. Right. But in the August meeting, you'll be in the scoring as well. So either way, but November might be best in terms of the timeline for
the final product, the final recommendation.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe we could discuss it in August.
Yeah.
And then.
Right, so a subcommittee could meet between now and, say, the beginning of summer, and have circulate that, the committee's recommendations to the commission, discuss it at the August meeting. Then we go into the scoring in September, and then anything we see if we do it. What I'd like to do is to have an alternative scoring method that's not official. And we have to do the official one in 23, but we could put these grants through it just to see what would happen, you know, as an exercise.
You mean actually change the system?
No.
Oh, okay,
No.
just in your mind, do it, like, follow it, like, as you
Informal,
go.
I've seen like rebuild
Informal.
this once you all.
To have recommendations strong enough that we're pretty sure that's what we want to do, and to use informally, run as we're scoring using the existing method, look at it, and then after that, we can finalize it, which would be for our November meeting.
Right, and if we already had your general recommendations at the August meeting, we could be working on the rule revision, and then based on that, and then any tweaks that you wanted to make after you've actually scored, we can do at the November meeting.
That's 5 months.
Yeah.
And just so you're thinking about topics, I mean, obviously the scoring came up and before, I think Commissioner Cortez, brought up increasing the amount of the grant. And then also the archaeology issue would be another item to consider. And then I don't know, Angie, if I missed anything else that was brought up at that meeting.
I think that I kind of hit the notes that you guys had at the November meeting, the weighting, the scoring. So then that would be a discussion on which items would you want to weight higher, or you know, do you want to cut any of them completely?
Well, you know, there might be another set of scores for exhibit grants.
Right.
You know, applications, as opposed to, you know,
Criteria.
that's right, different criteria.
Okay.
Increasing funding was a suggestion made, conversation about match, although we probably wouldn't want to get rid of match completely because we need grants. I mean, ideally, grantees have some funding to start up the project before the grant really gets going. And I had a comment that Kathleen wrote, which I don't remember. I just wrote this, and you said it. Weigh the request amount. And I don't know if that meant that you were saying maybe ones that had higher request amounts should score differently than ones with lower request amounts. But
I think there's two different issues, and I don't really know if we want to tackle that or not, but one of the things I saw frequently is that we consistently had people requesting max amount, and they were, you know, huge organizations or big government. They can handle that kind of stuff, and they're going after the kind of the same pot of money as some of these little nonprofit or rural church or a community that's really struggling, but this is important of a historic resource. So I saw like a disparity there, and I mean, I don't really know how to handle it because I was just going to scribble, but sometimes I think if you have a bunch of people just automatically requesting max amount, I wonder, should they be going up against the people that are putting together a legitimate budget? And it's like, oh, we're asking for $67,400. I mean, it's like.
I mean, I guess that could be a discussion in the subcommittee of like, how do we address that with the scoring criteria, right? Like, I don't know, because you all do score things that are lower budgets high, so it's not like just across the board, it's only the high budgets that get funded. I think that you all do look at the importance to the community and things like that, and maybe that's how we can weight some of those, maybe something to look at weighting high, not just historical significance, but benefit to the community or something like that. Like that could be a high, you know, but these are conversations that could be had in the subcommittee, you know.
Yeah, because I think it gets difficult. We could do it, but if you end up with 2 or 3 or 4 different lists, and then they get scored on different criteria, they still would get merged based on score. So then people
I
I
don't know that that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of things that always caught my eye when I was reviewing grants.
Madam
Well, I
Chair,
don't know that.
do you know if any other states use a comparable scoring system or a comparable assessment of categorical grants?
There are not a lot of states that do the types of grants that we're doing. Most folks fund a couple $100,000 off their HPF funds. We could check with Colorado, maybe, I think they had a big program, but.
I feel like we looked for that a few years ago.
Their scoring
I feel like
criteria.
the same question came up a couple of years ago, and we were actually one of the very few states that really took such a close look at the grants and the applications and who we allow to apply and the amount of funding we give.
It's been that way forever.
We're one of the top states that do it.
And I mean, in dealing with the National Park Service, I think we're even like sort of on the cutting edge more than they are, you know, in managing these, and or even more strict in a lot of cases than programs are.
It's impressive. Your grant program is impressive.
And we're gonna keep it that way.
But it's still, you know, the scoring is a work in progress, because I know Dr. Benz probably remembers back in the day when you used to say, okay, this is my number 79 project, and this is my number 54 project, and all that and then there was not a lot of basis. So at least now we have like the 10 criteria, and we are perfectly willing and want to hear from you on how we can make this
I feel
better.
like some of the questions are on the application are a little bit vague. You know, we're asking applicants to judge the economic impact of their project. Well, okay, if we restore a historic church, and that's one of our scoring criteria.
Right.
So if it's
Well,
kind
that's
of,
been a priority of the state, I think, for a long time, that, you know, these, and we said CalPERS is economic development, you know, and that's one of the ways they get funded, so that's.
So that's something like that, if we left it in, could be weighted less than other items that you all thought were more important for your scoring. So that's just the conversation probably that just needs to be had, and this is why, in part, like, when you all have these great ideas, we can do these, but we really need your input, because you're the ones that are scoring them. And so this is why I think a subcommittee who really digs into it a little bit more, and presents it to the whole committee, you know, you'll come up with some really good ideas that we can implement, so.
That sounds great, and now's the time to do it. And so, I think what we would like to do is, what we need to do now is to form that subcommittee. So I would say that, Kathleen, you have been active in this, and if you would be the chair of the subcommittee. What we need to do is to have several members. Who would like to volunteer? And I'm serious. This is a serious question.
Rick would like to volunteer.
Right?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I mean, as an architect, Rick, I think your input is critically important.
Sure, yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand. We also need to start thinking about workshops for people that are submitting applications, you know, to improve their applications, and to help them out, right? I mean, especially since we still don't have one architect on staff, let alone we used to have two architects back in the Stone Age, you know?
So we used to have three.
Three?
We do,
There were 3 at one
We
time.
had Dave
No
Farrell,
way.
Walt Honor. Dave?
don't,
And one of them worked primarily with Main Street.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
You remember Dave Farrell and Walt and,
Yeah,
Phil?
that's right. Well, I forgot, that's right. There were 3 architects. You're right, you're
All
right.
did Main Street stuff, yeah.
Okay, so how about we get off of 0 for, you know, this year? How about we do that?
Oh, he wasn't on the call when you gave the.
Yeah, Rick, I gave the budget update earlier, and, one item was that the architect is not included in the budget, in the governor's budget.
It was
We
not
actually got-
included?
No, we were actually reduced by 2 positions, if the budget were to go through.
So we have no architect.
Not at the moment, no.
So for another year, what's that, 5 years now?
Well, this is the governor's recommendation, so the legislature has not yet met to
Oh
make
my.
their determination.
So who was the genius at the governor's office that thought we don't need an architect on historic preservation? Somebody made that recommendation. That's just crazy. That's really insane that someone would recommend not to fund the architecture position and continue to, work in the dark with these conditions. I know you have other staff that's very, very capable, but it's not the same. Having a preservation architect on staff. Boy, we're missing a lot of opportunities to do the right thing.
Who on our commission is obvious with this process now and with the legislators? Is there another attempt we can make to convince legislators to put it back in?
I don't know. Let's talk about that later. Let's finish the subcommittee on scoring special category grants.
Yes. I'll join the committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. I was thinking, who else, commissioners now, speaking especially, particularly to you, who else would like to serve on this committee? It will probably meet 3 or 4 times on Zoom. Make a recommendation for a rule change. That's called real change. Michael?
Yeah, I'd be delighted to.
Good. That covers history too.
Yes.
And John Phelps, you have a particularly good view, a different view of our world. Would you consider serving?
What view is that, Madam Chair?
Say again?
It's your request. I'll be happy to do it.
All right, good. John Phelps. Anyone else? That's 4. One more.
Yeah,
leave it at that?
Judy,
Cliff? Is
yeah,
that a
Judy,
yes, Cliff?
Dr. Cliff, I'll be happy to serve if you need a 5th.
Good. Thank you. So Kathleen is the chair of the subcommittee, Rick Gonzalez, Michael Francis, John Phelps, Cliff Smith. Good. I know you'll do a good job.
I would nominate Michael as the vice chair in case the chairwoman's not available at a meeting.
All right, is that okay with everybody? Anybody got a problem with that?
And I suppose if anyone else wanted to join at a later date, we could.
Anyone else can tune in. Anyone can tune in.
And we'll need to advertise that meeting in the register to make sure it's in the sunshine.
Good. Yeah. And the subcommittee is going to have their recommendations by the August meeting. We'll kick them around. If you have some preliminary ideas for the May meeting, we'll kick them around then. Feedback to go back into your meetings, Kathleen. Got it? Excellent. It's about time. I don't know the last time the criteria were looked at, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Okay, thank you. Amy, yes.
Oh, just one last thing, just to remind you all, and I said this at the top of the meeting, but Rick was not on the call. We're targeting September 27th and 28th for the special category meeting, which is the same week that it has been for the past 4 to 5 years, last week of September. And small matching will be the last week of August. If you're interested, we're scheduling it the 29th and 30th. But that one usually only takes 1 day, depending on how many applications we get. But we're usually able to complete small matching in 1 day. But the 29th and 30th of August are what we're looking at for that. I think that was it for grants right today.
Madam Chair, I'd like to mention one thing, if I may, while we're on the subject.
Of course.
And that is, I think we need to reinstate the process we put in place a while back that keeps us updated, or there be a report of some kind on the progress being made on grants that have been approved by the governor.
Yes, John, we can do that, and I actually meant to do that at this meeting, but the holidays got away from me because grant staff did prepare some flyers, and I didn't have a chance to review them before Sarah sent out your meeting materials, so you will have those updates at the next meeting.
Good, good. Thanks for reminding us about that, John. Yes. All of our hard efforts. All right. So now we are to other business. I have one update on other business. Is that we have activated the Coalition for Historic Preservation, which is targeted on one goal, which is to get special category grants funded. And it was part of a wider move, but a big part last year, and it worked great. Just to remind you, commissioners, what this is it is underneath us, and we are basically supportive of it in any way and at our level. There are now 7. The 1,000 Friends of Florida has joined us, thanks to Melissa and the trust. Through that connection, they've joined us. So now that there are 7 statewide organizations in the Coalition for Historic Preservation. What are the other?
Awesome.
The other are the Trust, FPAN, Florida Historical Society. Thank you. The Florida Anthropological Society, the Archaeological Council, Florida Association of Museums, the Trust, Florida Historical Society. That's it. Okay? Thank you. And the trust is extremely helpful. But one of the things I want to remind you all is that the coalition itself, come join us at the table here, Melissa, for a second on this topic. The coalition itself provides to its membership information by which its members can lobby their personal legislators. This is a grassroots advocacy campaign to make sure that the legislators which have grants in their district, and even if they don't, that they are visited by real people. Your neighbors, my neighbors, the people across town, the people that are in the local history organizations, and so on. They go in with 3 or 4 things. Number 1, they go in with a booklet, which is the old pink book, but it's now the yellow book that the trust puts together. And it's a series of 1-pagers on each grant with a picture of the property, a sort of the bullets about what the grant is for. You might want to explain it, Melissa.
You're doing great.
And the first page is a state map of the state with a dot for each grant application in the county where it is going to be conducted. So that's the primary thing. The second thing is a 1-pager on water special category grants. What are they? How do they work? What good do they do? And at the bottom are all of our logos. That shows the group strength of the coalition. What's the other thing we get? Better in talk. No, we
The talking points, the 1-pager, and the book.
Right.
Those are the 3 tools for that.
And we send them out electronically. And although you, Melissa, from the trust, will send hard copies if organizations want them. The organizations that I'm really familiar with, they have chapters. FPAN has centers, and they, I would say a few copies to each of those, but they can do that. Just send it to the president on the commission, on the coalition, and they'll get it to their chapters. Right. So not only are we doing it again, but we're doing it stronger with the 1,000 Friends of Florida. And we've got plenty of time. This is not the last minute. Last year, we had the idea a little late, but we have plenty of planning now. And I personally want to thank the trust. I know the commission does as a group. Thank the trust for all of your help.
Well, thank you, Eric, too, for all the great work that you did to get us all that information for the book. It was very helpful.
Madam Chair, while we're on the subject, I think I'd like to resurface an issue that Rick brought up, and that is, would it be appropriate, in your view, for this coalition to attempt to encourage adding an architect so that we can do our work more effectively? Would that be something that you think would be appropriate, or is that going beyond the mission of it?
Well, that, in a way, it's going beyond the mission of the coalition, because it has one goal, and that's it, fund those special category grants. But there are, in the conversation, and maybe even in our handouts, we could do a couple of other things. One is your tax credit bill. That's now been filed, and it's very important for historic resources, and the trust is full behind it. Another one could be a critical staff issue to help service these grants within the Bureau, the Division of Historical Resources. I'm thinking maybe we could have a little paragraph on each of those on the other side of the one-pager or something, and talk about it while the person encouraged the membership to talk about it, especially the leadership.
Right.
Right.
Yes, if I may,
Please.
or do you want me to wait for the, public comment?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I think what the coalition can do is absolutely the work that we're talking about with funding the grants. That's very important. But we did, at our last meeting, also talk about the historic tax credit. And so I think that we can maybe piggyback a few other things in there, in our leave behind with our conversations. And then, of course, the Florida Trust, we are able to advocate for funding for key roles in the division, and tax credits and all those kind of things, separate from the work that the coalition does. And we certainly plan on doing that. We've talked about that a little bit.
So, yeah, the answer to your question, John, is I think the coalition would be happy to piggyback a few things that are of critical importance right now, and just bring it to the attention of the legislators. You know, it's good, it's funded, it's all wrapped together in the special category grants wrap around all of these issues. So we had an organizational meeting, our annual meeting, Wednesday morning. Everybody said we're in, and let's do it again. It's not hard on the leadership. Now, what we have to do as a commission is to activate our network. Each of us on the commission are old hands. We have people that are connected to the budget process and the legislative process. And as our role as the primary support organization for the division, this was a critical need last year. It's going to be a consistent need. I think we like working together. We enjoy taking on some issues, and the commission itself. Anyway, we need to support that effort of the coalition. We should do it. It's basically our baby. We're kind of the lead org, although the trust does most of the work, we kind of are the umbrella under which it operates, and I think it works great. We really don't have to do a lot, but it keeps it on our radar and makes us, I think, a little bit more active in contacting our connections to don't forget about the special category grant. I may only make 2 visits, but they are absolutely key. You know, keep the door closed in certain particular places where these things get cut. And all we do is these are almost invisible. We don't see special category grants in the budget very much, but we know where they are and we know what committees they're in. And we talk to the leadership and the chiefs of staff of those. That's the kind of stuff we do. And it's effective. And $8 million is a lot less than $22 million from last year. And that was the biggest one we've had in a hell of a long time. So thank you as commissioners for helping us with that. I know many of you made serious calls about this, not only to the governor's office, but to legislators. So anyway, our coalition is doing well, and we're trying to repeat. And I think piggybacking on particular issues, this one is one, the historic architect is another. Whatever real problem we have in the division needs to be us as a commission's #1 job. You know, yes, we have to handle these things like on our agenda today, but the #1 job of this commission is to make the Division of Historical Resources better, stronger, for all of us and all the historical resources in the state. Who else can do that? The answer is nobody. So that's, I think, stepping up and being the home organization for the coalition is a good example of how we can help, you know? It didn't hurt. Yeah. So anyway, thank you. And it affects your staff in various different ways. And so you'll know that it is putting to some of it, it's being put to great use and getting it out there when you can, and you should, and I know that. We all know that, but we can.
And if I could just add one more thing, I
Yeah.
didn't say during my initial, talk about positions was that there was also a salary adjustment that was submitted that was not there.
Right.
And I know that had been something that the commission was, had talked about previously, and, you know, has been a reason that we have not been able to fill our positions, so.
I think that probably, in my opinion, is the biggest issue in the division. Do you think so?
I would say yes. I would say the vacancies that we have.
Right.
That, you know, Ruben's doing 3 jobs right now. So, and that's a direct result of, you know, us not being able to fill the CLG coordinator position. I mean, the applicants that we're getting, I know a lot of it is driven by the outside market, you know, that the people are qualified that would normally come to us are now going to CRM firms and other places for more money. But it's, you know, it's probably already affecting service, and I think it's going to get worse, and people are going to start to notice, because I think we are kind of at our maximum limit. And I feel sometimes that I've pushed people almost too far, asking them to do things, and everyone is wonderful, but there's gonna come a day when I think, people are gonna get tired.
Can I add to that?
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, thank you. I would just second, triple what Alyssa just said. And I also want to say that I've been on this board for 15 years. And this is the best senior staff we've ever had, with Alyssa at the helm, who understands historic preservation extremely well. And Ruben is just nonstop energy, right? And we cannot let our staff burn out. We need an architect on this commission. We need the lobby, we need the lobby to get that architect and get these positions filled and take care of our really good staff before we blow a gasket or punch one of our tires and run out of steam. Thank you.
And if I may join in real quick, one of the things also is our staff isn't even competitive within the state of Florida. So even with other state agencies, DOS, salaries are not necessarily even competitive with other state agencies.
So what's the process? Let's say you come up with amount of money that would bring your existing staff, the position, up to competitive within the state. And you come up with a number, whatever it is, $20 million, $5 million.
That's been done.
All right, so what's the number?
Well, I have
You cannot remember.
spreadsheet right now. I did not actually put together the salary
Okay.
numbers. That is the one part of the legislative budget request that I was not involved in. That's something Administrative Services did the research on. They compared it to the national averages, to what archaeologists and
Oh, good, so they came up with a number.
and it's well documented, and we have
Oh,
spreadsheets and numbers.
All right, good. And you submit that as a request to the governors to be put into you request it to the secretary.
Yes, I would request it to the department, and then it's determined what would get submitted to the governor's office, and then they would determine what's submitted here in the budget.
So really, the secretary is the key, right? If he really supports it, he will support it to the governor.
I would expect so.
That's right. So,
He supported the architect position, but the governor just didn't fund it.
It's my understanding it was submitted to the governor's.
Right, okay. Good.
no, so we have to look towards next year's budget.
I think so. And we will definitely resubmit these requests again
Right.
this year.
But we need to politically kind of smooth the way. So we get this, there's plenty of money in Florida, but do you support this? And so I don't mind going to the secretary, and as a commission, go to the secretary and wring my hands a bit. And one of the things I would use with the secretary for the architect is it seriously dangerous?
And I,
Not to have an architect reviewing these architectural proposals.
and I will say they have been very supportive, very supportive.
Good.
So I have not been involved in any discussions beyond that, but.
Good. Well, that's what we have to do. It's pretty simple. Get the secretary to really support it, and the governor. We have, I'm sure, on the commission, people who can pick up the phone and get a meeting with the governor. I'm not one of them, but I'm sure one of the commissioners is, and we'll work on that.
Definitely not one of those.
All right, we'll work on it. We do have people that can do that, and we will ask them and explain to them. All right? Okay. So that's your number one need. I agree with you, that if you don't have it, you're gonna have this, we're gonna have some sort of a problem that's gonna be terrible.
We already have a problem.
I mean, with the
We already have
project,
a problem.
well, with the project, with the building not being done right, with,
But they're already short-staffed.
yeah.
And they have to, and not only can they not hire people, they have high turnover. Because people are being hired away.
Yeah.
We just learned yesterday, one of the National Register people is out of here, to
Right.
Virginia.
Right.
So, you know, think about it, like, every time they bring someone in new, they gotta go
But
through
that's-
the whole, like, onboarding and bringing them up to speed.
But that's kind of a broken record. That's not enough to get the attention of the people who fund it. There has to be something critical, something that will make Florida look bad, that will make the Department of State be a problem. It's very possible. You know, it's why does FDOT, for example, have a good staff and well-paid? Because if these roads are bad, they're going to cause accidents and they're going to affect tourism, period. So what's going to happen when one of our projects go bad? Because it could, because our oversight is not your oversight, is not what it should be.
Well, I mean, another example would be, you know, if the grant staff, they're managing $100 million.
That's right.
New money this year, you know, and we've got, a few of them are OPS staff. You know, we're hiring people that are right out of school for these projects, and these are $500,000 projects in many cases, and, you know, I think we do a good job. There's a lot of training that goes into it. I look at every grant award agreement, but, you know, there's a lot of, potential for, you know, hopefully not fraud, but there are things that could go wrong.
Bad mistakes.
There could be money that was misspent, or,
That's right.
you know,
Bad
luckily we haven't had that anytime recently.
No, but the level of oversight is thin. So why don't we, you and I, work together on a statement for justifying or identifying the critical need and the repercussions that it could have if something went wrong on one of these projects, and get in the paper and get to be messy. And the reason is because you didn't have enough, it slipped by your overworked staff, underpaid staff, underqualified, whatever.
And it's happened before, not in a long time.
No, it hasn't.
We don't,
Thank God it has.
yeah.
But you have to kind of look at it negatively, which we don't like to do.
There's another party to this conversation that may have influenced the governor's decision in some cases, and that is DMS. They do salary comparability studies. Now, how often they do them, I don't know. I know they used to do them at least every 2 or 3 years. And it might be useful to find out what that salary comparability study shows with respect to these positions, because that would be an additional bit of armor that we could use.
Good. I never heard of them. You heard of them?
Department of Management Services.
Salary comparability study,
No.
every 5 years.
But I do know our chief operation officer dug way into this and did a lot of comparisons, so we can get those too.
Yes, yes.
The governor's going to listen to what DMS has to say about that, I suspect, when the time comes to submit his budget. And that might be
Right.
a different party to bring to the table.
Okay. John, would you be willing to have some conversations and help us on this a little bit with some background like that?
Yeah.
Good. I know you would. Let's tap into our commissioners, like John said. All right, so we're gonna look into this, and we're gonna develop a new strategy for you. In the meantime, we're gonna beat the barrel over, we need an architect now.
Okay.
All right, this year, just like we need the tax credit now. Not only do we need special categories, but we're gonna ring those bells while we're lobbying and ask the membership of our organizations to do that. All right, good. That's a big chunk, but you know, it isn't getting any better.
I feel like we need some happy news now.
Well, the happy
Not all
news.
bad, we do a lot of.
Well, you do, and you got more grant money for special category grants than we've gotten in a long
Incredible,
time.
and, I mean, these projects that are coming out are just gonna be game changers for a lot of organizations.
That's
all over
right.
the state, so that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
and that, you know, that, is very important, and we don't lose sight of that. The thing about real leadership is you really focus on the negative. You focus on what's gotta be done, you focus on where the problems are, you focus on how do you make it stronger and better, right? It's a real downside of being in leadership, but that's, you know, that's the way it is. If you don't like it, you know, don't be in it, and we all like it, so we're in it.
I'm here.
I know you are. All right. Anybody else got anything else to say about all this? Other business? It is the other business of the commission. All right. Is there anybody online or in the room that wants to have a public comment?
I do, whenever.
Of course.
This is Melissa again from Florida Trust. Thanks, guys. I just wanted to give a quick update on where we are with the tax credit.
Thank you.
We keep talking about. It's the Main Street Tourism and Historic Revitalization Act. We began the work last year, so this is a continuation of that same bill. It would be a 20% credit for eligible rehabilitation costs for historic buildings throughout the state, and that would be bumped up to 30% for Main Street communities. So we're really excited about that. It was filed in the Senate by Senator DeSigley. It's Senate Bill 288. And we're very excited, it was filed in the House by Representative Paula Stark, and it's House Bill 499. And I'm sure you all know that Paula Stark is a Main Street director from St. Cloud. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Yep. Yeah, like Kissimmee, St. Cloud, it's wonderful. So she knows very intimately the power of the Main Street program, and how important historic preservation can be and can play a role in that economic revitalization and the economic engine for their communities. Just this morning, EDR gave the bill a price tag of $40 million, so $10 million more than last year, but not terrible. I think it's still a list that we can make. And it has been referred to the House Infrastructure and Tourism Appropriations Subcommittee. So we will share updates, advocacy updates on when those meetings are going to happen. So if anyone's in town and interested, you can come and sit in and wait in support for those meetings. For then, to your point, our preservation conference is July 19th through 22nd in Ocala. So it's going to be very exciting. And I also did just want to share that we are going to have a lunch and learn that's available for everybody on February 22nd about tax credits. We'll have Renee Coleman from the National Trust and then a developer based out of Louisiana talk about the impact of historic tax credits and how they can be kind of practically used and have been used in other situations. And then on March 22nd, we're going to have our lunch and learn series with Megan Brown from the National Park Service, and she's going to be talking about how you can successfully make National Park Service grants happen. She's got some pointers because they can be a little complex. And then Katie, I was going to say, we would love to help when we're out and about talking to our legislators. We'd love to help tell the story of all the great stuff going on and share your thanks for appropriations for cool archaeological stuff. So if you just want to let us know, we're happy to.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Melissa, what was that tax credit webinar date?
The 22nd of February. And then finally, we will, again, if we're going to have the special category grant September 27th and 28th, we will do our reception on the 27th. We thought that went well last year.
When you're having your, what do you call it?
Oh, our legislative reception?
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. That is March 28th. So that's when we have board members and other stakeholders from around the state join us. We do a quick training session,
And then we go out and meet with lawmakers, and we'll talk about our key points, so that we can talk about some funding issues, our tax credit grant funding, and celebrating our Galaxy.
Good.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for everything the trust does for historic preservation and us.
Is that open, anybody? The, advocacy guy? Yeah, but we share with our members that anyone has to. Would you like to come? Yeah.
I think I said March 15th is Main Street Day.
Yes.
Got 2 good days to go up here.
All right. Any other comments that, anybody wants to make? All right.
Madam Chair, I'd like to just point out one thing. I think Alyssa misspoke, probably, hopefully so, when she said the legislature would adjourn on April 5th. It's actually May 5th.
Oh, May 5th. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
So when is the first? Is March the 7th to
March the 7th to May 5th.
Right.
I said April. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Well, it changes every other year, you know?
It does. It's a late year.
It's magic. Anything else, Commissioners, that is on your mind or the public's mind? All right. Other than that, I guess our business is complete. So, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen. We do not need to vote on that. But thank you very much for everybody's attention, Commissioners. Thank you. And we will keep you posted.
Thank you, everyone.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to